Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and I can finally have my first look at Tamurkhan. Those of you who know my channel know that I think very, very highly of the Throne of Chaos book from way back in the day by Games Workshop, so finally getting able to see Tamurkhan in a digital flesh is going to be super cool. So, let's start off by checking out the faction and lord effects. For faction effects, we have the following: has access to Tamurkhan's chieftains, providing unique heroes, units, and abilities. Campaign movement range plus 10% for all armies, you're going to be a lot more mobile, and recruitment health plus 10% for all non-demonic units. Yep, you're incentivized quite heavily to use some mortals instead of demons here. When it comes to lord effects, we have the following: wound recovery time minus 3 turns, kind of representing the whole thing about Tamurkhan always being around. Ability, Nurgle's favored son, melee attack plus 5 for non-demonic units in Lord's army, and attribute immune to psychology for non-demonic units, once again in Lord's army. So if you want to use a lot of mortals, it's probably going to be the best to use it with Big Boy over here. Back in the day in the tabletop, Tamurkhan was more of a Warriors of Chaos faction, but then slowly became like a mono-god thing in the campaign, so it's cool to see that represented here. So we're jumping into campaign super quickly. In the Immortal Empires, you'll be starting at the plains of Zanbaijin. You're going to be fighting against a minor Norscan tribe, and yeah, pretty much at the beginning you're going to be fighting Kolek. This is going to help you later down the line with Khazak the Befouled, but it's also going to be a bit of a tough start. Kolek is not an easy enemy to fight, especially since Nurgle doesn't really have that much anti-large. However, I would say if you take your time, you're going to be fine, and you will be able to have a rather strong 20 stack by the time that he starts coming to you. When it comes to the Realm of Chaos map, you will be at the Writhing Fortress, so you're going to be out of the way, just fighting against a Khorne minor faction, and then from there you can start expanding wherever you so wish. It's going to be the same campaign though, regardless of which area you start. So Tamurkhan stat-wise focuses very heavily on melee combat, as you can imagine. His unique skill line is going to focus up on getting stuff like regen for him, which is going to make him pretty good. Buffing up Plague Ogres, yeah, Plague Ogres are going to be really strong, and even making freaking Toad Dragons unbreakable for all armies faction-wide, by the way, which is pretty damn cool. If you're one of these guys that wants to Doomstack, I mean, yeah, this might be the time for you. You can also really have something interesting here, which is reducing upkeep by 25% for all units in the armies in the same province. If you're going with a lore-friendly push of multiple armies going down through the Darklands, then into the Mountains of Morn, and then straight down through the World's Edge Mountains, doing the Tamurkhan story, essentially. I know some people want to actually replicate that story. Well, yeah, you can do it, and you're going to have really cheap armies alongside that, which is going to be great. It's going to take a while for you to pick up Bubalos, but don't you worry, as soon as you fight a few of the Chaos factions and so on, you should be golden. And really, Tamurkhan is so strong, you're going to be fine. It's just not going to be too much of an issue there until you get Bubalos. Now, here's something pretty interesting. You only have access to one unique item, and you're not going to get that until rank 17. It's something that threw me off. Mind you, it's very strong, and the character does definitely not need that. You can get some other items, which we'll talk about a little bit later anyway. But yeah, no set bonuses or anything. It was actually quite surprising. Now, as I said, if you want to go for a lore-friendly Tamurkhan feel, you'll probably want to focus around Chaos Warriors, Marauders, and so on. You've got the buildings for it, and they've been updated too, which we'll talk about a little bit later when it comes to the actual new units. But yeah, this does mean that you're going to be able to start recruiting some Marauders from the beginning. You don't have them in your beginning pool, which I think is a shame, but yeah, go with some demons and then straight pivot and you're good. But let's not get distracted. We should talk about the brand new resource. This is dominance, and dominance is achieved by many other means. Not only do you get them through battles and events, but some other stuff too that kind of pops up, and you spend them on your chieftains. This is a brand new mechanic which is only available to Tamurkhan himself, and yeah, you'll be able to pick up not only pseudo legendary heroes plus one legendary hero, but a bunch of units from different races that fall under the whole chaos spectrum. So you can see that there is the Norscans, the Chaos Warriors Undivided, Chaos Dwarfs, Beastmen. It's a pretty interesting system because it's going to have, once again, more of a feel of the book. This is actually one of the campaigns that I'm really enjoying the most, because I'm actually role-playing that I'm playing through the Throne of Chaos book, and it kind of makes me sad that Games Workshop never finished the other three. Oh boy, we've lost out on a little bit of DLC potential, that's for sure. But there's a lot to talk about here, so we're going to jump into a lot of heavy detail. The first chieftain that you'll be able to pick up is your legendary hero. Yes, as from turn 1, you'll be able to get Kasich the Befouled. And as you can see here, he focuses very heavily on cavalry-based monsters. Like, for example, you've got the chariots. You'll be able to pick up some Rot Knights here and some Toad Dragons. This is all without needing to do the whole cycle situation. This will be the case for all the other pseudo-legendary heroes, but to be able to get the units, you're going to have to build up a reputation bar of sorts. So, for example, with Kasich, you have to either spread plagues or defeat some Warriors of Chaos, Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, or Norsca in battle. Yes, you'll be having to fight other chaotic factions. It's a good thing that there's 2 different ways to be able to do so, because that means that should with any of them, one of the prerequisites, like say for example attacking other Warriors of Chaos factions, no longer be possible, you can just spread plagues. That is, of course, if you take too long, because there's some people who play their campaigns in a very slow pace, which is perfectly fine. Now, Kasich is very strong. First up, like all pseudo-legendary heroes and legendary heroes, he tends to start off with his items, so it makes him quite strong, but he'll also start mounted on a Rot Beast, making him fairly, well, not actually even fairly, actually very fast for a Nurgle character, that's for sure. And you'll also have a unique skill line, which is pretty damn good. He'll focus quite heavily on just making him really, really strong. Extra chances at spreading plagues also really does help. But yeah, this is a character who's there to be killy, and he's very, very good at it, which I feel a lot of people are going to take full advantage of, especially as you can make him unbreakable too. He's got quite a very good trait there, which is resilience, so ward save, extra speed, extra attack. In general, like, he is really good. I'm actually fairly surprised that you're going to be able to get something so strong at the beginning of your campaign. I guess that's why they decided, yeah, let's put him at the lore-friendly start for Tamurkhan, because you're going to need some help when you're dealing with Kholek, that's definitely for sure. Now, you're probably wondering why the unique skill line doesn't have any buffs for units, and that's because he's got a secondary line which helps very, very heavily with boosting up your cavalry. Yes, an army with Kasich is going to be great with cavalry, which is obviously very strange for a Nurgle force, but again, very, very themed. You can have something with cavalry and chariots. You don't have to have Kasich and all these buffs with Tamurkhan. As you split up and make multiple armies, you can put him with another Chaos Lord of Nurgle, for example, and do something really themed and really, really unique. In fact, all the pseudo-legendary heroes do add some flavor when it comes to that, so you'll be able to really experiment. Recruiting the special units from your legendary heroes is pretty simple. You just spend a little bit of dominance and then you recruit them from a chieftain units tab, very similar to that of the mercenaries tab. And there is limits to them, of course, but you're going to be able to have a little bit of fun with this and have a unit there instantly, right? This is not like the Nurgle recruitment where they need to regen. They're going to be 100% here, which is pretty damn sweet. And it honestly doesn't take too long to be able to unlock the other ones. Again, just focus on doing the fealty for that specific chieftain, and it's going to run up super, super quick. Which again, having, say, for example, Rot Knights very early on is going to make it even easier for you to start dominating across the battlefield. We're going to go over all the chieftains. The next one on the line is Kargan the Crazed, and this is a character which is undivided, meaning that the units that you'll be able to pick up are the aspiring champions, Hell Cannons, giving you some much needed heavy artillery, and some Dragon Ogre Shagoffs. You can see the chieftain abilities over there and the traits for the specific characters. Getting your fealty up with him is pretty simple. It's raising settlements or defeating Empire, Bretonnia, Cathay, or Kislev in battle. Considering where you are, you can beeline straight to Cathay or just anywhere really. You're going to be fighting any of those order factions pretty early into your campaign. This is also the perfect time to tell you that you can get your fealty up with multiple characters at the same time, providing that you have them all unlocked. So yeah, if you can get them all out early on, it's going to help you out. And the character himself is pretty cool. I mean, he's got his own basic line. He's not really that unique, but he's there to buff up warriors essentially, and also the Shagoffs. He's a buffer, but he's also big for damage. He can get a Chaos Dragon, meaning that you'll have a character with a Chaos Dragon. It's not very common with Nurgle, obviously. He's pretty basic when it comes to exalted heroes, but then again, yeah, it's perfectly fine. You're using him to get the Hell Cannons, essentially, which is the big one for you as you want some heavy artillery once you start dealing with Null. Overall, I quite like him. I think he's a pretty interesting character either way. And they don't have to be all 100% unique. You're going to get some more unique ones as you start progressing. And do remember that their special traits get a little bit stronger as you start getting their fealty up and running. Alright, third on the list is Ketsak. This is a Fimir character which will grant you access to a bunch of Fimir troops and also the Chaos Frost Dragons, because that's a thing now. They used to be the Frost Worms. The fealty is pretty easy, either researching technology or fighting high elves, dark elves, or wood elves. I would say picking up this character early on is going to be better for you because you get technology up pretty fast and it's only going to take like 100 turns to be full done there. I mean, you'll still be fighting high elves, dark elves, and wood elves, but they're not as centralized to you as anything else, considering where they're from. You don't have to go in order, which is the great thing, barring Kha'Zix. You have to get Kha'Zix. But yeah, when you've got this Fimir character, this gives you access to the Lore of Shadows, which is a very good lore of magic overall, and the unique skill line focuses up on the Fimirs and other monsters, giving them regeneration, for example, giving you a bonus to Norsca diplomacy. I know that might not mean much, but in case you want to unite the tribes afterwards, well, what remains of them after you've been killing them all off, there you've got the possibility. Like I said, the pseudo-legendary heroes aren't full legendary heroes, so they don't need a full skill line, it just adds in a little bit of flavor, and I kind of like that. It also gives you access to magic that you wouldn't otherwise have, and just play around with. You know, that's all pretty cool. Mournhowl is the way that they introduce bringing in the Dolgans, I guess, which is going to give you some Chaos War Mammoths and so on, and you'll get fealty from raiding. You'll also be getting it from defeating Lizardmen, Ogres, Beastmen, or Chaos Dwarfs in battle. Overall, I like the idea of this. I think it's a great way to kind of bridge the gap there, since the War Mammoths sadly aren't with the Chaos Warriors, which they really should be, but you never know if Creative Assembly decide to change that later on down the line. The character has some pretty fun effects. You can see all the traits and stuff on screen. Getting Skin Wolves is also quite cool because it's going to give you some more fast stuff, which at the end of the day is quite helpful for a faction which is historically very, very slow. When it comes to the character himself, he does have a few skills which are going to boost him up in terms of damage output and so on, but also increase the ability of your Chaos Warriors. Yeah, he's actually going to give you a little bit more of a boost there, give them some extra armor, give them some armor-piercing weapon damage. Again, very, very helpful if you want to have something really, really scary, but also boosting up the other monsters in your army too, and speeding up the speed, actually, of all your troops in that specific army. I like him. I've got a few fast Nurgle armies that I'm running with my own personal campaign, which is really funny because it just doesn't feel right, but yeah, they're moving around fairly quickly and getting into enemy flanks and doing a lot of damage. It's really cool to see that here. Next, we'll talk about Ezar Doombolt. He is a Chaos Dwarf, and that means that you're going to get access to the Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses, some Fireglaves, and also the Dreadquakes, in case you like hitting your own armies, I guess. When it comes to increasing the fealty, it's from looting settlements, defeating Skaven, Greenskins, or Dwarfs in battle. He himself is a ranged Castellan, which is going to provide you some heavy fire support, meaning that you're going to have pretty good range with a Nurgle force. It's really weird to think of it that way, because you've got like hell cannons and fireglaves and everything. It's so weird. But yeah, you'll be able to pick him up and you'll be able to start leveling him up as you go. He's going to have a skill line focused on buffs to diplomacy on the Chaos Dwarfs and very much focusing on having a range army. So if you want to have him on like a specific army and just have all the Chaos Dwarfs there, the Hell Cannon and also the Dreadquakes, you can do something quite good with him, make them much stronger in terms of range, ammunition, and so on. I like this character. It's a nice throwback again to the book. Well, the whole campaign is that, but it's making me nostalgic, and I kind of want to run a Throne of Chaos campaign again on the tabletop. He does have also some skills for himself to make him the whole usual Castellan stuff. Yeah, overall, very, very strong as a character. It's so weird, I'm not gonna lie, it's so weird getting heavy range stuff as a monogod faction. It's weird, but it's great because it shows different type of play. Essentially, with all these pseudo-legendary heroes, you're gonna have a few armies which is just gonna play so differently to your standard campaign. And lastly, we got Grukma Freehorn. So yeah, the Beastmen were actually part of Tamurkhan's horde, so it's nice to see that implemented here. A little bit of a nod, and yeah, you'll be able to get some Centigors, some Cygors, and some Gorgons. All in all, quite good. When it comes to increasing the fealty, it's pretty simple. Recruiting the chieftain units, also defeating Vampire Counts, Vampire Coast, and Tomb Kings in battle, and seeing that Cetra right now for some reason seems to expand quite heavily. If you start going south into, Araby and Hakara and so on, you're not going to have any issues over there. This is, again, one of my favorite characters because, and I've been saying that a lot, I've been having a lot of fun with Tamurkhan, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, you'll be able to get quite heavy bonuses to all the beast stuff, getting diplomacy with the beastmen, which is going to be quite good for you, by the way, as it's going to make them less annoying, let's put it that way. Because sometimes they can raid you and then turn on you, and you don't want that. But you're also going to get some buffs towards Plague Toads, Beasts of Nurgle, Chaos Furies, Rotflies, which is pretty good too. And you get access to the Beastman magic, you know? You get a little bit of cool magic in here. I like it. Devolve is a good spell. Brace Scream also. Just in general, this is a good lore of magic, so having access to it is quite cool. The Beastman himself has a really good benefit, as you were able to see before, that you can get the Beast Paths with a specific army that he's embedded in. Actually, really useful if you want to move through the Mountains of Morn, because, let's be honest, it's a bit of a slog. It's a bit ridiculous, but yeah, you could, if you wanted to, have basically 8 characters in one army, 1 lord and then 6 heroes. It's not bad. If you want it done best, you'll want to spread them out, especially since they have unique traits and skills to have all the themed different types of armies. Fealty does, as far as I've seen, also increase with other armies. You don't have to do it with Tamurkhan. You can have different armies improving on all the legendary heroes, and the great thing is, obviously, now that Nurgle's rework has come into effect, you actually have a lot more freedom to be able to do so, since now actually having multiple armies is actually viable. It's kind of weird to say that. Now, if you feel like Fealty can be a bit of a slog, which I kind of guess it can be, don't you worry, every now and then dilemmas can pop up which will ask you to side with different characters. If your Fealty is full, like for example over here where I've got Kasich fully done, he'll just provide me some bonuses with Corruption. I believe there's a few others, I'm not 100% too sure. I've mostly been getting them all done as fast as possible, but yeah, it's perfectly viable to have it up and running without too much of a panic. And Fealty is important because once you complete it, you're also going to be able to get a special quest battle for each of the characters. And yeah, you can get a bunch of treasury, you can get some extra dominance, which is very useful, some infections too. It's quite a cool system. I'm loving the attention to detail and getting a lot of quest battles in, especially for characters where the mechanics are very much based on one specific thing here and there. It also adds to a lot more story. Let's be honest, story when it comes to Total War Warhammer hasn't been the best, but it's getting better, especially with the storytelling, with the DLCs. Now, I'm not going to show you all of them because I do like to leave things out for you guys to discover, or else it would just be kind of boring when you guys get access to the DLC. But there is an intro, and yeah, let's check it out.
The hunger of the great unclean ones is legendary, but this one turns its appetite on its own. For that, Nurgle will have me put it down.
Having voice battles like this really adds into the flavor of the campaign. It just is a little bit of extra stuff there that is good for narrative purposes. And these quest battles are quite interesting. Like, for example, this one here, I cannot do damage to this Great Unclean One unless I kill off the 3 Plague-Ridden which are there behind, protecting this tree, right? That stuff is cool. That stuff really adds into more complex quest battles rather than kill this army, reinforcements arrive, kill that army too, right? It definitely incentivizes you more to do it. I do believe that these quest battles should, in theory, all be auto-resolvable, because after a certain amount of time, it does become quite repetitive, as people do like to play the same character over and over again. Yes, I'm talking to you over there who's waiting for the update to drop so you can play your 500th or 501st Karl Franz campaign. But if they're going to be different and they're going to have different stylings, yeah, that's great. More voicing also is great. I like seeing more of the actual voice actors voicing their characters a little bit more. It shows more dialogue, it shows more feeling and more interpretation for you guys, the players, on how this character acts in lore. Alright, that's talking about everything with the mechanics. Let's talk about the units too, because the Nurgle roster is looking pretty damn sweet now. I am actually really happy to see this filled out nice and proper, because it gives me hope for future stuff, maybe with Slaanesh and with Khorne. Naturally, a lot of these units will also be transferable to the Warriors of Chaos, Daniel the Demon Prince, and the Beastmen, but we'll talk about those in future videos, don't you worry. Now what we need to talk about is, yeah, The new units can all be found in the cycles. I know people don't like the cycle stuff, but it does feel better, believe me, after this rework. And since you can rush them, you can get to those units much better. They are all spread around quite nicely, but yeah, there's only 5 military buildings. If you've got one major city and one minor city, you'll basically be able to have them all. And since recruitment is based on the cycles, you can recruit them from pretty much anywhere. So yeah, it's pretty sorted there. I am a big fan of the spread here, mostly because now everything's a bit more packed together, and that means that, yeah, you are going to get the units a lot faster and a lot quicker. But yeah, we have to start talking about the generic options first. So first up, we have the Chaos Lord of Nurgle. He is a tanky boy. That's pretty much the main thing, right? He's a melee focus character, which you can get him on a Rot Beast too. Rot Beasts are available to every character now, by the way, which is absolutely fantastic. Not the Cultist, however, but your Sorcerer Lord, your Chaos Lord, your Exalted Hero, and your Standard Sorcerer will have access to the Rot Beast mount, making them very mobile and very, very killy in melee combat, should you so wish to have them up front and personal. There's some basic skills there, which can give some debuffs to the enemy and also some buffs to yours. In general, he's there to be a tank, and he does that well. Sure, most people are going to go with the Sorcerer Lord, but it's better to have the option, because you might only want the Sorcerer, but some people will want to actually have a Lord in the front. And he's also got a friend, the Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle. This is a generic hero, so you can have them with the Chaos Steed, the War Shrine, or a Rot Beast. Same old laws as usual. Lord Death or Lord Nurgle, but at the end of the day now you can actually have some heroes up and running, because War Shrines are quite good, so you're going to want to bring them anyway, and it's just nice to have the option. They also look freaking awesome, by the way. I don't know what the style was here. I think it's actually going from one of the art pieces in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, but yeah, nothing can go wrong with getting more heroes that are generally quite tanky, you know. Very good armor, because at the end of the day, Chaos Sorcerers, even if they're the basic ones, are still wearing Chaos armor. So I'm quite keen on this. It's about time that the roster was filled out with the generics. The generic stuff is always really, really important. But let's start moving on to the units. There are a few new units. These are pretty cool. The first one is the Pestigors. Now, they're not fat. It's actually a little bit disappointing. However, they do look very unique. You know, they've got the stylings of the old model, just not the bloated stomach. What they do have is a lot of mutation. You know, you've got the pustulant stuff and so on, which does make them look like they are part of a Nurgle force. I'm very, very happy about this. They've got Vanguard, they've got armor-piercing melee damage. These guys are up front and personal. You can get them with the Beastmen also, and also with the Chaos Warriors, but it's just nice to finally see them. It does give me hope that eventually, by the end, hopefully by the end of Warhammer 3, we'll have Khorngors and Slangors too, so they are all a little bit different, especially this one with a great axe, very Nurgle-y. It's something that you already have a lot in the Monogod faction, Nurgle, but it's going to help out with the Beastmen too, and let's be honest, these past few DLCs, you know, the Beastmen have been the real winners. Plague Ogres are finally a thing, so these were from the actual Throne of Chaos series, and yeah, two variants. We got great weapons, and then we got the standard with hand weapons. This gives us some pretty heavy hitters. So the Plague Ogres are ogres, right? They've got ogre charge. They're very good for that. They're going to hit very hard. They're going to be a very strong shock trooper, and they can take a lot of punishment too. I am a big fan of these. These guys are anti-large too, which is giving you anti-large. Going to be very, very useful if you're going to be fighting against the other Chaos Forces, for example, as they all have big monsters. The Chaos Ogres in general hold up pretty well, which is pretty good because, yeah, you need them here, and you're going to need them with your Chaos Warriors if you're playing as one of the Undivided guys, or even as Festus, which Festus, by the way, is, I'd say, a little bit stronger now, but we'll talk about him in a different video. So, I'm not going to lie to you, all my speculation I've been saying Rot Knights, but I was losing hope because they never had an official model. But we finally have representation of what the Rot Knights actually are. These are very, very heavy cavalry. They are anti-large, they're armor-piercing, they've got regeneration and poison attacks, they're pretty damn fast too. I am so pleased with them. I personally would have said maybe no, if I was the designer, obviously, no mutated hand and give them a shield too, because I feel a shield would have been very useful for them. But all in all, they're very tanky as they stand anyway, and it's just so nice to finally look at these, right? Like, here's hoping, right? You never know, the stars align that they actually get an official model one day in Warhammer the Old World. That would be lovely, considering how damn cool these guys are. I am so happy. Bile trolls are a thing too, so this is actually kind of cool because it uses the same base as the normal trolls. This is something that was going to be expected anyway, but it actually has a lot of unique animations, which is pretty good. Obviously, we don't want this looking the same, but it's going to work like a troll, right? It's armor piercing, it's got regen, it's got poison attacks, it's a shock trooper, and it's pretty good at what it does. It's also got all the benefits from Nurgle, so it's got debuffs for the enemy and so on. I'm pleasantly surprised that I was liking them. I'm not a person that uses trolls. It's one of these things, I just don't like trolls. They've got very low leadership and so on. But I feel like when they're tanky, when they're god-touched, they feel a lot better to use in campaign. So that was a benefit here. And I did end up with an army of a fair amount of them, actually. And the last is the Toad Dragon. So I kind of expected these guys as a individual unit. I actually said this in a speculation video prior, because while the main one is from Tamurkhan himself, they did show up, I believe, in either the Monstrous Arcanum or Storm of Magic. They are known to be in the wild too. It's just there's not a lot of them. So it's cool to see them. It's a big, monstrous unit. You know, it's an unstoppable creature, anti-infantry, scaly skin. It's got terror, it does a lot of damage. You can make them a lot stronger if you're playing as Tamurkhan too. And, I mean, they're just super cool. One of the best looking models. A great interpretation of what they were in the tabletop too. And the idle animation where they're just basking in the sun is adorable. I know it's really weird to say that for a Nurgle creature, but it's really damn cute, man. It is really damn cute. I love these guys. Doom stacking them is really, really fun with Nurgle. I imagine that one of the videos that Okoi is going to release is going to be a Doom stack of 20 Plague Toads. But yeah, super, super cool. Really, really happy with the additions. I'm a big Chaos fan, which is very, very obvious. But now that we're here, let's talk about just my in general thoughts of this campaign. Tamurkhan's really fun. I'm not going to lie. The interpretation of the book essentially to his campaign was spot on. I'm very, very pleased with this. It's something that I just wasn't expecting. And yeah, it's really, really good. Because I know like some people go, well, it was natural. But there's been many cases where interpretation has been skewed. So I wasn't really expecting let's copy the book in a sense, right? Which is really, really cool. One thing, however, is when you're playing in the Realm of Chaos map, which you're going to be seeing on screen, the first battle, there's a hill, and the Khorne forces hide at the hill, which is just annoying, because you're fighting uphill, which obviously means that you have less stats. But yeah, overall, the interpretation was great. The character is awesome. The units are really, really good. If you're a big Nurgle fan, I think that you're really going to like this. I like that his unique mechanic focuses on him purely, rather than a faction thing. It's going with amassing hordes and so on. Again, focusing very heavily on one of the best campaign books that Games Workshop ever released and never completed the series. Yes, I know I've said that before, but it breaks my heart every time that I have to think about the Throne of Chaos series sometimes. Tamurkhan knows how to hit. All his troops are very heavy hitters. Yeah, you're in for a good time. You're in for a very, very good time. Now, with all that being said, there's going to be more videos. There's like 6 videos today, and there's going to be a lot more coming. I am going to be live on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges. I believe today we'll be playing some Malachi. Pop by, say hi. I'll be streaming for like 8 hours, so yeah, it's going to be a long one. There's going to be loads and loads of videos, all until the review day, which is on the 29th, where I've got a pretty lengthy review there. And yeah, I mean, if you're new here, consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps the channel out, get a little bit boost in the algorithm. And I'm really trying to hit 100k this year. It'd be really nice if I could be able to do so. We're getting so close. But other than that, you know, guys, have a great day. I'll see you all again very, very soon. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.